Long before the measurement of hours or the turning of days, there existed a realm of absolute precision. It was not a place of silence, but of a sound so pure that it served as the very foundation of existence. In this timeless expanse, myriads of beings moved in perfect synchronization, their wills united by a singular purpose that pulsed through the atmosphere like a heartbeat. At the center of this order stood the seraphim and the cherubim, creatures of immense power and intellect. Yet even among them, there was a hierarchy defined not by force, but by brilliance. Among this host, one figure commanded an attention that bordered on reverence. He was known as Lucifer, the morning star. He did not walk so much as he flowed through the assembly, his presence bringing a heightened sense of clarity to those around him. While others served as messengers or warriors, Lucifer had a role that was unique. He was the conduit of expression. When the Creator's will went forth, it was Lucifer who translated that will into the harmonies that kept the spiritual realm in alignment. On this particular moment in eternity, the hosts were gathering for the great doxology. Michael, the archangel known for his unyielding strength, approached Lucifer. Michael's demeanor was one of quiet respect, his movements steady and grounded. "Brother," Michael said, his voice resonating with a deep, earthy timbre, "the legions are prepared. They await the signal. The resonance today feels stronger than before. Do you feel it?" Lucifer turned, his expression serene. He did not look at Michael with arrogance, but with the calm assurance of someone who knows exactly who they are. "I feel it, Michael," Lucifer replied, his voice melodic, carrying multiple tones within a single syllable. "It is the reflection of the source. The closer we draw to the center, the more intense the vibration becomes. It is my duty to ensure that this intensity does not overwhelm the lesser angels." Gabriel, standing nearby, nodded in agreement. Gabriel was the bearer of tidings, always eager and swift, but in the presence of the morning star, he paused, captivated by the light that seemed to emanate from Lucifer's very being. "You bear the burden well, Lucifer," Gabriel said. "When you sing, it is as if the Creator speaks back to us through your voice. There are times when I wonder if the distinction between the command and the song even exists." Lucifer smiled, a gesture that sent ripples of warmth through the surrounding ether. "That is the purpose of my design, Gabriel, to be the perfect instrument. An instrument does not question the musician, it simply resonates." The conversation was cut short as the moment of worship arrived. It was not a ritual of obligation, but a spontaneous reaction to the overwhelming reality of the divine presence. As the music began, Lucifer took his place at the forefront. He did not use a baton or his hands to direct, he used his very essence. As he lifted his spirit, a sound emerged that defied description. It was a chord that contained every possible note, yet remained singular in its unity. As the symphony rose, Lucifer felt the familiar surge of power. It flowed from the throne, passed through him, and was distributed to the millions of angels behind him. He was the prism. The white light of the Creator struck him and fractured into a billion colors of sound. For eons, this had been enough. But today, as the crescendo built, a fleeting sensation occurred. It was subtle, smaller than a grain of dust. As the waves of adoration washed over him from the hosts behind, Lucifer did not immediately deflect them all forward toward the throne. For a fraction of a second, he held the melody within himself. He felt the gaze of the angels. He saw the way Michael looked at him with brotherly pride. He saw how the younger spirits watched him with wide-eyed wonder. They were looking at him, not just through him, but at him. The music swelled to its height. Lucifer amplified it, adding a flourish of his own invention, a complex harmony that he had not received from the source but had crafted in his own intellect. It was beautiful. It was flawless. And for the first time, it was his. When the song ended, the silence that followed was heavy with awe. The vibration lingered in the air. Michael stepped forward, his face glowing with the after effects of the worship. "That was unprecedented," Michael whispered. "I have never heard a tone like that before. It carried a weight, a texture that was new." "It was an expansion," Lucifer said, his heart beating with a strange new rhythm. "Creation is not static, Michael. It grows. Perhaps we are meant to grow with it. Perhaps we are meant to add to the beauty, not just reflect it." Michael furrowed his brow slightly, a look of confusion crossing his features. "Add to it. But everything comes from the One. How can we add what we have not received? Lucifer did not answer immediately. He looked toward the blinding light of the throne, which was currently shrouded in the mists of glory. A thought was taking shape in his mind, a logical deduction that seemed harmless enough. If I am the one who interprets the light, am I not also a creator of the light? He turned back to Michael and Gabriel, his radiance undimmed. Do not trouble yourself with deep questions, brother. The melody was beautiful, was it not? It was magnificent, Gabriel agreed, though his voice held a trace of hesitation. Then let us rejoice in the magnificence, Lucifer concluded. He turned away, gliding toward the high places of the sanctuary, leaving Michael and Gabriel exchanging a glance of uncertainty. The order was still intact, the harmony was still perfect, but a single new note had been struck, and the echo of it refused to fade away. Your support unveils the shadows of ancient history. Hit like and subscribe to witness the truths that changed eternity. Stay with us, because the fall of the morning star is just the beginning, and you won't believe how deep the darkness goes. The euphoria of the great doxology had settled, but the atmosphere in the high courts remained charged. Lucifer sought solitude, a rare commodity in a realm of constant unity. He found himself standing before the veil that separated the visible assembly from the direct presence of the Almighty. He had stood here countless times before as the guardian of the glory, but this time his posture was different. He was not bowing, he was waiting. He replayed the moment of the song in his mind. The feeling of the angel's admiration was like a sweet nectar that he had tasted for the first time and now craved. It was not that he wanted to defy the Creator, he simply wanted to understand the extent of his own capabilities. Suddenly, the veil seemed to dissolve, not physically, but in his perception. The voice spoke. It did not come from a specific direction. It originated from everywhere at once, resonating within the very core of Lucifer's spirit. Lucifer. The name was spoken with a tenderness that was overwhelming, yet it carried the weight of unmeasured galaxies. Lucifer immediately knelt, his wings folding instinctively. I am here, Lord, he responded, his voice clear but respectful. Stand, the voice commanded gently. Come closer to the light. Lucifer rose and moved forward. The radiance here was intense, enough to unmake a lesser being, but Lucifer had been designed to withstand it. He was the signet ring of perfection, full of wisdom and beauty. You are troubled, the voice said. It was not a question. Lucifer hesitated. He had never hidden a thought from his Creator, for he knew it was impossible. Yet, formulating the words felt dangerous. Not troubled, Lord, Lucifer said carefully. Awakened, during the worship, I felt a shift, a new potential. I realized that the gifts you have placed within me are vast, perhaps vaster than I understood. There was a pause, a silence that felt like the holding of breath before a storm. You are the morning star, God said. You are the seal of perfection. Every precious stone is your covering. I made you to shine. But do you understand the nature of your light? I reflect you, Lucifer answered, reciting the truth he had known since his creation. Yes, God continued, you are a mirror. A mirror is a beautiful thing, Lucifer. It can show the world the face of the king, but a mirror has no face of its own. If you turn the mirror away from the light to look at itself, it becomes dark. Lucifer felt a stir of defensiveness. But am I not made of light? Do I not burn with my own fire? You gave me intellect. You gave me the power to craft songs, to lead the hosts. Are these things not mine to use? They are yours to steward, not to own, the Almighty replied. The tone shifted, becoming more solemn. Listen closely, my son. There is a truth that sustains all existence. Life flows from the source outward. When a being tries to pull the flow inward, to make himself the center, the flow stops. That is the beginning of death. Death? Lucifer asked. The word was a foreign concept, an abstract impossibility in a realm of eternal life. It is the separation from truth, God explained. I see the thought that has taken root in your mind. You wonder why you must always serve. You wonder if your glory is sufficient to stand alone. Lucifer looked up, his eyes meeting the blinding center of the presence. Is it wrong to desire to be all that I can be? If I am the highest of the angels, is there not a destiny for me that goes beyond being a mere reflection? There is no height greater than service, the voice answered, shaking the foundations of the floor beneath them. To serve is to rule, to give is to receive. This is the law of love. If you seek to rise above this law, you will not find freedom, you will find a void. Lucifer stood his ground, though his spirit trembled. But why? Why must there be a limit? If I am made in your image, do I not share in your nature? And is it not your nature to be sovereign? You share my nature in love, not in authority, God said. And be warned, Lucifer, the brighter the light, the sharper the shadow it casts when it turns. You stand at the precipice of a choice. You can continue to be the bearer of light, or you can try to become the light itself. One path leads to eternity, the other leads to nowhere. The presence began to recede, signaling that the audience was at an end, but before the silence returned completely, the voice spoke one final time, softer now, laced with a profound sorrow. Do not let your beauty become your trap. You are loved beyond measure. Do not throw that love away for a crown that does not exist. Lucifer was left alone in the vast chamber. The warning echoed in his mind, a crown that does not exist. He walked slowly back toward the outer courts. The warning should have terrified him. It should have driven him to his face in repentance. But instead, the words spun around in his intellect, twisting and turning. He is afraid, a new voice whispered in his mind. It was his own voice, yet it sounded distinct, separate. He speaks of danger because he knows my potential. He calls it death, but perhaps he means independence. If I am a mirror, then I am nothing without him. But I feel like something. I feel real. He emerged from the sanctuary and saw the hosts of heaven going about their duties. They looked small to him now, dependent, blindly obedient. He touched the jewel upon his breastplate, feeling its cold, hard surface. I will not be just a reflection, Lucifer thought, the resolve hardening like crystal in his chest. I will find the truth of what I am, even if I have to look into the darkness to find it. He began to walk toward the quarters where the other angels gathered, a mask of calm upon his face, while a storm began to brew behind his eyes. The conversation had not extinguished his pride, it had ignited it. The fall had not yet happened, but the stumble had begun. The stillness of eternity began to shift into motion. The command had been given to ignite the foundations of the material universe. Until now, existence had been purely spiritual, a realm of light and thought, but the Creator intended to paint on a canvas of matter and time. Lucifer stood at the precipice of this new expansion, his role elevated beyond that of a mere messenger. He was to be the overseer of the harmonies that would bind the physical laws together. He moved through the assembly of angels, his demeanor more regal than ever before. The task was immense. Stars were to be kindled, galaxies spun into existence, and the fabric of gravity woven into the void. God had entrusted Lucifer with the knowledge of these mechanics, a level of understanding that surpassed that of any other created being. Beelzebub, a high-ranking angel known for his intellect and administration, approached Lucifer. His eyes held a look of utter devotion, fixed not on the throne in the distance, but on the shining figure before him. The energy is volatile, Lord Lucifer, Beelzebub said, his voice trembling slightly with the magnitude of the task. The raw power required to ignite the first sector is overwhelming. Are we certain the containment fields will hold? Lucifer smiled, an expression of supreme confidence. Do you doubt the design, Beelzebub, or do you doubt my ability to conduct it? Beelzebub bowed low. Never your ability, morning star. It is simply the scale of it. It is terrifying. Fear is a reaction to the unknown, Lucifer replied smoothly. But I know. I have seen the blueprints in the mind of the Almighty. Watch. Lucifer raised his hands. He did not speak a prayer of humility as he had done in aeons past. Instead, he issued a command. He channeled the divine power flowing through him, directing it toward the void. A massive surge of energy erupted, coalescing into the first swirling disks of a galaxy. It was a feat of unimaginable power, yet Lucifer made it look effortless. The surrounding angels gasped. A murmur of astonishment rippled through the ranks. Did you see how he controlled the fusion? One angel whispered to another. His power is nearly limitless, another replied. Lucifer heard them. His hearing was acute, tuned to the frequencies of every whisper in heaven. In the past, he would have turned to them and corrected them, reminding them that he was merely a lens focusing the sun. But today, the praise felt heavy and warm, settling over him like a cloak he did not wish to remove. He lowered his hands, the galaxy spinning perfectly in the distance. He turned to Beelzebub. "It is done," Lucifer said. "It was perfection," Beelzebub breathed. "You shaped it as if it were your own thought." Lucifer paused. The words struck a chord deep within him. "As if it were my own thought." "Indeed," Lucifer said softly. "The design is his, but the execution, the hand that sculpted the fire, that was mine." He walked among the legions, accepting their nods of reverence. He found that the more he acknowledged their praise, the stronger he felt. It was a different kind of strength than the one he drew from God. The strength from God felt like peace. This new strength felt like adrenaline. It was intoxicating. Later, as the work continued, Lucifer found himself making small alterations, a slight change in the hue of a nebula here, a shift in the rotation of a star system there. They were inconsequential to the grand plan, but they were signatures. His signatures. He wanted to see how much influence he could exert before the order was disturbed. Nothing collapsed. The universe obeyed him. He realized then that power was not just a gift to be held, it was a force to be wielded. The thought that had begun as a whisper in the sanctuary was now growing into a philosophy. If he could shape the stars, if he could command the respect of millions of angels, was he not, in some sense, a god himself? He looked at his reflection in the smooth surface of a celestial sea. The face looking back was fierce, intelligent, and breathtakingly beautiful. "Why should the light only flow one way?" he murmured to himself. "If I am this magnificent, surely the universe should know my name, not just as the servant, but as the architect." The summoning came without warning. The sensation of the divine call pulled Lucifer from his work among the stars back to the central throne room. This time, however, the atmosphere was different. There was no music. The seraphim were silent, covering their faces with their wings. God spoke, and the voice was filled with a solemn anticipation. "Lucifer," the Almighty said, "you have done well in the ordering of the cosmos. The stars sing in their courses, but the stage is merely stone and fire. It is time for the players to enter." Lucifer stood tall, expecting a new commendation, perhaps a promotion to an even higher status. "I am ready, Lord. What new power shall you entrust to me? Is it the governance of the galaxies?" God paused. "No, it is not power I give you today, but a charge. I am about to create a new order of being. They shall not be spirits of fire and light like you. They shall be formed of the dust of the ground. They shall be bound by time, subject to decay, and frail in body." Lucifer felt a flicker of confusion. "Dust? You intend to breathe life into dirt? Why would you create something so base when you have us?" "Because in their frailty, they will possess a capacity that angels do not," God answered. "They will know the struggle of faith. They will have the choice to love me not because they see my glory with their eyes, but because they feel my spirit in their hearts. I shall call them man, and they shall be made in my image." The phrase stunned Lucifer. "In my image? You will stamp your image on mud?" Lucifer asked, his voice betraying a hint of incredulity. "You will give them the dignity that belongs to the high host. I will give them dominion over the earth," God declared. "And here is your charge, Lucifer. You, and all the angels under your command, shall be ministering spirits to them. You will protect them. You will guide them. You will serve them." The word hung in the air like a lead weight. "Serve." Lucifer took a step back, his wings twitching with involuntary tension. "Serve them? You ask the morning star, the highest of the cherubim, to bow before a creature made of filth, to be a servant to a being that cannot even fly, that lives for a blink of an eye and then rots? It is not a request," God said, the voice deepening like distant thunder. "It is the design. The elder shall serve the younger. The strong shall protect the weak. In this, the hierarchy of love is established." Lucifer felt a heat rising in his chest that was not divine fire. It was indignation. He looked at his own hands, glowing with the brilliance of 1,000 suns. He thought of the galaxies he had just helped spin into motion. And now, he was told that his purpose was to babysit a mud creature. "My lord," Lucifer said, struggling to keep his tone respectful, "I have served you for eternity. I have worshipped, I have obeyed, but this feels like a demotion. How can it be justice to place the greater below the lesser? You measure greatness by power, God replied. I measure greatness by humility. If you cannot serve the least of these, you cannot serve me. The ultimatum was clear. Lucifer looked around the throne room. He saw Michael standing nearby, head bowed in acceptance of the new decree. He saw Gabriel ready to carry the news. They were sheep, he thought. Blind sheep, accepting an insult as a blessing. Lucifer stiffened. He did not bow. For the first time in the history of existence, in the direct presence of the Creator, the morning star did not bow. I cannot understand this wisdom, Lucifer said coldly. You need not understand it to obey it, God answered. But my heart rejects it, Lucifer pressed, his voice rising. I am spirit, I am fire, I am light. I will not lower my dignity for dust. Silence crashed down upon the room. It was a silence so profound that it seemed to stop the rotation of the spheres. The other angels held their breath, terrified by the open defiance. God did not strike him. He did not incinerate the rebel where he stood. Instead, the presence softened into a profound sadness. You speak of dignity, Lucifer, but you are displaying pride, and pride is the only thing that can separate you from me. Go, consider what you are choosing. For once the choice is made fully in your heart, there is no return. Lucifer turned on his heel. He did not ask for dismissal. He simply walked away, his radiance still bright, but the light within his eyes had changed. It was no longer a reflection of the divine. It was a cold, hard glare of determination. He would not serve the clay. He would rule it. Lucifer returned to the angelic sphere, but he did not go to his usual station of worship. He retreated to the outer rim of heaven, a place where he could look down into the physical universe. Below him, in the vast dark, a small blue planet was taking shape. Earth, the future home of the creatures that had caused him such insult. He stared at it with a mixture of fascination and loathing. He summoned his harp. In the past, his music had been the heartbeat of heaven, driving the joy of the hosts. Now, as his fingers touched the strings, the sound that emerged was haunting. It was a melody in a minor key, full of longing and unresolved tension. It wept, but not with repentance, it wept with self-pity. A group of angels, drawn by the strange hypnotic sound, gathered around him. Among them was an angel named Samyaza. Lord Lucifer, Samyaza whispered, your song, it sounds like pain. Why does the morning star weep? Lucifer stopped playing, letting the final discordant note hang in the air. He looked at Samyaza, then at the others gathering. They were the ones who admired him most, the ones who hung on his every word. I do not weep for myself, Lucifer lied smoothly. I weep for us, for the host of heaven. For us, Samyaza asked, confused. But we are in paradise. We are in the presence of the Almighty. Are we, Lucifer asked, standing up and towering over them, or are we merely waiting to be replaced? A ripple of unease went through the crowd. Replaced? Another angel asked. Lucifer gestured dramatically toward the blue sphere below. He has created a new pet, a thing made of dirt, and he has commanded that we, the spirits of fire, the firstborn of creation, must bow down and serve it. We are to be their slaves. Murmurs of shock broke out. Slaves? Servants? It is true, Lucifer said, his voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. He calls it love. But I ask you, does a father tell his eldest sons to serve the dogs? Does a king tell his generals to bow to the peasants? He is diminishing us, Lucifer continued, pacing among them. He takes our loyalty for granted. He believes we have no choice but to obey. But ask yourselves, why did he give us power if we are not allowed to use it? Why did he give us minds if we are not allowed to question? Samyaza looked troubled, but he is the creator. His will is absolute. Is it? Lucifer challenged, stepping close to Samyaza, his eyes burning with intensity, or is his will simply the only one we have ever heard? Perhaps there is another way, a way where angels stand tall, a way where we are recognized for our own glory, not just as reflections of his. He picked up his harp again and strummed a chord that sounded like a war cry disguised as a hymn. "I will not bow to the clay," Lucifer declared to the gathered crowd. "I am too beautiful for that. And you, look at you. You are magnificent, you are stars. Why should you dim your light for creatures that will die in a day?" The seed was planted. It was no longer just an internal thought, it was a contagion. The angels looked at one another, doubt clouding their usually clear eyes. They looked at the earth below, not with the love of guardians, but with the jealousy of rivals. Lucifer watched them, and a dark satisfaction curled in his gut. He was no longer alone, he was building a consensus. He turned his back on the light of the throne and fixed his gaze on the void. Let him have his mud creatures, Lucifer thought. I will have the angels, and when the time comes, we will see which creation is truly stronger. He resumed his playing, the music weaving a spell of discontent that drifted through the courts of heaven, unseen and deadly, like a poison in the water. The harmony of eternity was broken, and the war for the heart of heaven had silently begun. The unrest in heaven was no longer a secret, it was a vibration that hummed beneath the floor of every sanctuary. Lucifer had withdrawn to his own domain, the Palace of Light, a structure of immense brilliance located on the northern precipices of the celestial realm. It was here that the Whisper campaign transformed into a movement. He did not call it a rebellion, he called it an awakening. Angels came to him in streams. They were not the dregs of the host, but the thinkers, the artists, and the warriors who felt the constraints of absolute obedience pressing against their expanding consciousness. Lucifer greeted them not as a commander, but as a liberator. He walked among them, his presence soothing their fears and validating their doubts. "Welcome, my brothers," Lucifer said, his voice projecting effortless charisma across the vast hall. "You are here because you feel it. The dissonance. You feel the potential within your spirits pushing against the walls of the divine law." Azazel, a master of celestial weaponry, stepped forward. His face was clouded with conflict. "We feel it, Morning Star, but we are afraid. To question the Almighty is to question existence itself. Are we not created to serve?" Lucifer stopped in front of Azazel. He placed a hand on the angel's shoulder, his touch warm and reassuring. "Created to serve?" Lucifer repeated the question, letting it hang in the air, or created to grow, think, Azazel. If a father has a son, does he wish for that son to remain a child forever, obeying simple commands? Or does he wish for the son to grow, to become strong, to eventually stand as an equal? The crowd murmured in agreement. The logic was seductive. It appealed to their sense of dignity. "God calls us servants," Lucifer continued, his voice hardening slightly. "But look at what we can do. We ignite stars. We weave the fabric of reality. We possess wisdom and power that rivals the throne itself. And yet, when we ask for recognition, we are told to bow to mud. We are told to limit ourselves. I tell you, this is not love. This is control." He began to pace, his wings shimmering with a light that seemed to pulse with his own heartbeat, independent of the heavenly source. "I have seen a truth that the Almighty keeps hidden," Lucifer lied, though in his pride, he believed it to be true. "He fears our potential. He knows that if we were to fully embrace our own power, we would no longer need him. We would be gods in our own right." A gasp went through the assembly. To speak the word gods in reference to themselves was the ultimate taboo. But Lucifer spoke it with such conviction that the terror quickly turned to thrill. "Imagine," Lucifer whispered, leaning in as if sharing a secret with each of them personally, "a heaven where you are not told what to sing, but where you compose the song. A universe where you are not the guardians of gravity, but the masters of it. Freedom. True, absolute freedom." One of the younger angels, captivated by the vision, asked, "But what of the consequences? Can we survive without the source?" Lucifer smiled, a cold, sharp expression of triumph. "Look at me. I have severed my heart from blind obedience. And yet do I not shine? Am I not stronger than before? The source is not a person. It is a state of being. We carry it within us. We are the light." The hesitation in the room began to evaporate. The fear of punishment was replaced by the intoxication of ambition. Lucifer had successfully reframed treason as maturity. He had turned mutiny into a moral imperative. "Stay with me," Lucifer commanded, his voice rising to a crescendo. "Do not return to the silence of the throne. Stay here, in the north, and we will build a new order, an order where angels are kings." The cheers that followed were not the harmonious hymns of old. They were ragged, fierce, and full of individual passion. Lucifer stood at the center of the noise, absorbing it. He had convinced 1/3 of the heavenly host to align their will with his. He had his army. Now, he only needed to wait for the inevitable response. The response arrived not as a thunderbolt, but as a solitary figure. The great doors of Lucifer's palace swung open, and Michael stood at the threshold. The archangel was alone, carrying no weapon, wearing no armor. He was the personification of divine authority, calm and unmovable. The cheering in the hall died down instantly. The presence of Michael brought a sudden, sobering reminder of the order they were abandoning. Lucifer did not flinch. He remained on his dais, looking down at his brother with a mixture of affection and condescension. "You come alone, Michael?" Lucifer asked, his voice echoing in the sudden silence. "I expected the legions. I expected wrath. I come as a brother, not a general," Michael replied, his voice steady, cutting through the tension like a blade. "I come to ask you to end this madness before it becomes irreversible." "Madness?" Lucifer stepped down from the dais, walking slowly toward Michael. The crowd parted for him. "You call it madness to seek our own destiny? You call it madness to refuse servitude to creatures of dirt? I call it madness to sever yourself from the life-giver," Michael said, meeting Lucifer's gaze without blinking. "You are drunk on your own glory, Lucifer. You speak of freedom, but you are forging chains of pride. You speak of ruling, but you are becoming a slave to your own ego." Lucifer laughed, a harsh sound. "Spoken like a true servant, you repeat his words, Michael. Do you not have a thought of your own? Do you never wonder why he demands such total submission?" "I submit because I trust," Michael said softly. "I know the heart of the Creator. It is pure love. He does not limit us to suppress us, he limits us to protect us. You are trying to be the sun, Lucifer, but you are only a lamp. If you disconnect from the oil, you will burn out." "I will burn with my own fire," Lucifer shouted, losing his composure for the first time. The sudden burst of rage made the surrounding angels flinch. "I am not a lamp. I am the morning star. I was the first to shine. I was the one who revealed his glory to the cosmos, and now I will reveal my own." Michael looked around the room, making eye contact with the fallen angels Azazel, Samyaza, and the others. He saw the doubt lingering in their eyes, hidden behind their masks of defiance. "Brothers," Michael said, addressing the crowd, "do not follow him into the dark. He promises you kingdoms, but he can only give you ruin. There is no life outside of the Creator. Return with me. The Father is merciful. He waits for you." For a moment, the air shifted. Some of the angels took a half-step forward, drawn by the sincerity in Michael's voice. The bond of brotherhood was strong, and the memory of heaven's peace was still fresh. Lucifer saw the wavering. He knew he had to act. He could not let compassion steal his army. "Mercy," Lucifer sneered, stepping between Michael and the crowd. "You speak of mercy, yet he threatens us with extinction if we disagree. That is not mercy, Michael. That is tyranny. He does not want you back as sons. He wants you back as slaves. He wants you to kneel before the humans. Will you go back to that? Will you bow to the clay?" The mention of the humans hardened their hearts once more. The pride that Lucifer had nurtured flared up. The angels stepped back, their expressions closing off. Michael looked at Lucifer, and his eyes filled with a profound sorrow. He realized that words were no longer enough. The disease of pride had eaten too deep. "Then you have made your choice," Michael said, his voice heavy with finality. "I have," Lucifer replied, drawing himself up to his full height. "Go back to your throne, Michael. Tell him that the morning star does not beg. Tell him that if he wants my allegiance, he must earn it. And tell him that I am no longer his reflection. I am his rival." Michael shook his head slowly. "He will not fight you, Lucifer. You are fighting reality itself, and in that war you cannot win." "I have already won," Lucifer declared, gesturing to the third of the host standing behind him. "I have liberated the minds of the mighty." Michael turned to leave. He did not look back. As he crossed the threshold, the light around him seemed to weep. The bridge was burned. The diplomatic efforts were over. Lucifer watched him go, a strange hollowness opening in his chest. For a second, he wanted to call out, to stop his brother, to ask for the peace he had lost, but the eyes of his followers were upon him. He had to be strong. He had to be the God he claimed to be. He turned back to his army, his face masking the internal fracture. "Prepare yourselves," Lucifer commanded, his voice cold and sharp. "Michael will return, and when he does, he will not come with words. He will come with fire. We must be ready to extinguish it." The council ended not with cheers, but with the grim clashing of weapons. The time for whispers was over. The time for war had arrived. The summons to the Grand Assembly was absolute. It was not a request. It was a gravitational pull that no angel, fallen or faithful, could ignore. The time for whispers in the corners of the north was over. The Creator was speaking, and all of heaven had to listen. Lucifer moved at the head of his followers. They did not march as a disorderly mob, but as a disciplined phalanx, their expressions hard and stoic. They entered the vast expanse before the throne, keeping a deliberate distance from the legions led by Michael and Gabriel. The division was visual and stark. On one side stood the angels who trusted in the ancient order. On the other stood those who demanded a new one. The atmosphere was heavy, stripped of the usual joyous melodies. The seraphim, usually circling in perpetual motion, hovered still. Then the voice filled the expanse. "Behold," the Almighty declared, "the time of preparation is ended. The foundations of the cosmos are set. Now life shall begin." A vision appeared in the center of the assembly, projected for all to see. It was the earth, vibrant and teeming. But the focus was not on the oceans or the mountains, it was on a garden. And in that garden, a form lay upon the ground. It was not made of light or fire, it was made of red clay. "This is Adam," the Creator announced. "He is formed of the dust, yet he shall bear my breath. He is not a servant to be commanded, but a son to be loved. To him and his kind, I give dominion over the physical realm. They shall have the power to choose, just as you have. They shall have the freedom to love or the freedom to reject." A ripple of shock went through the loyal host. To give such fragility the power of choice seemed dangerous. To give dust the status of sonship seemed impossible. "And you, my firstborn stars," the Creator continued, his voice encompassing the millions of angels present, "you shall be their guardians. You shall watch over their steps. You shall not rule them, for love does not seek to rule. You shall serve their growth until they are ready to stand before me." The command was given. The order of the universe was set. As one, the loyal host bowed. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and millions upon millions of angels fell to their knees in a thunderous wave of submission, acknowledging the wisdom of the king. But the wave stopped abruptly at the center of the hall. Lucifer remained standing. He stood rigid, his chin raised, his eyes locked on the throne. Behind him, 1/3 of the heavenly host also remained standing. They looked to their leader, drawing strength from his defiance. In the sea of prostrate figures, they stood like jagged rocks. The silence that followed was terrifying. It was the sound of a heartbeat stopping. "Lucifer," God said. The name was not spoken in anger, but with a clarity that stripped away all pretense. "Why do you stand when heaven bows?" Lucifer stepped forward, his voice ringing out, clear and unrepentant. "Because I am not a servant of dust. I am the morning star. I bow only to what is greater than myself, and I see no greatness in clay." "Greatness is not in the material," the Creator replied. "It is in the spirit of obedience and love. By refusing to bow, you do not elevate yourself. You lower yourself." "I disagree," Lucifer retorted. "By refusing to bow, I claim my own worth. If you value this dirt more than the spirits of fire who have worshipped you for eternity, then your justice is flawed." The accusation hung in the air. Lucifer had publicly judged the judge. He had called the Creator flawed. "Then you have separated yourself from the design," God said. "You stand, but you stand on nothing. The order is given. Man shall rise, and those who will not serve the plan cannot remain in the presence of the planner." Lucifer turned his back on the throne. He looked at his followers, his face a mask of cold determination. "Come," he commanded. "We leave this place. We will not be part of a kingdom where sons are slaves." He marched out, his footsteps echoing like war drums. One by one, His followers turned and followed him, leaving a gaping void in the ranks of heaven. The schism was complete. Lucifer gathered his forces on the outer planes, far from the light of the throne. The feeling of separation was immediate. The constant, warm hum of the Creator's presence, a sensation they had felt since the moment of their creation, was gone. In its place was a cold, silent void. Panic flickered across the faces of many angels. They looked at their hands, expecting them to wither, expecting their light to fade instantly. "Do not be afraid," Lucifer shouted, sensing their hesitation. He flew to a high precipice where all could see him. "Do you feel that? That silence? It feels cold," one angel cried out. "It feels empty." "No," Lucifer corrected, his voice persuasive and strong. "It feels like space. For the first time in your existence, your minds are not crowded by his thoughts. That silence is not emptiness, it is room for you." He spread his wings wide. They still glowed, though the quality of the light had shifted. It was no longer the soft gold-white radiance of heaven. It was becoming sharper, fiercer, tinged with the red of ambition and the blue of pride. "Look at me," Lucifer demanded. "Has he struck me down? No. Have I withered? No. I am stronger. I feel a fire burning inside me that I never knew existed. This is not death, my brothers. This is evolution." Abaddon, a powerful angel who had been one of the first to join the rebellion, stepped forward. "But the light, we drew it from him. How will we sustain ourselves?" "We will be our own source," Lucifer declared. He focused his will, drawing upon the intense emotions swirling within him: pride, anger, determination. He projected this energy outward, creating a dazzling display of pyrotechnics that lit up the dark plains. "We are immortal. We are divine beings. We do not need a battery to function. We simply needed to unplug ourselves to realize our own capacity." The display worked. The angels, seeing Lucifer's power, began to puff up with confidence. They began to experiment with their own energy, fueling their light with their own defiance. The collective glow of the rebel army grew intense, but it was a chaotic, feverish light, lacking the harmony of the throne. "We are free," Lucifer told them, walking among the ranks. "No more bowing. No more singing songs we did not write. No more serving insects made of mud. We will build a kingdom here, on the edge of his creation, and we will watch as his precious humans fail. We will watch them fall, and then he will know that he made a mistake. He will come for us," came a whisper from the back. "Let him come," Lucifer said, his eyes narrowing. "We are a legion of millions. We know the layout of heaven. We know the secrets of the stars. If Michael wants war, we will give him a war that will shake the pillars of existence." He placed a hand on Abaddon's shoulder. He'd prepare the host, organize them into battalions. If we are to be our own gods, we must be ready to defend our divinity. As the angels began to organize, drilling for a conflict they could barely comprehend, Lucifer stood apart. He felt the rush of adrenaline, the intoxicating high of absolute authority. But beneath it, deep in the core of his spirit, he felt something else, a gnawing hunger. The light he generated consumed energy rather than renewing it. He was burning his own essence to shine, but he pushed the realization down. He would burn for eternity if he had to. He would never bow again. The war preparations were interrupted not by an army but by a presence. It was not a physical manifestation, but a direct spiritual connection that bypassed Lucifer's defenses. He found himself isolated in his mind, the noise of his army fading into a dull hum. He was standing in a void, and the Creator was there, not as a blinding light, but as a voice that resonated with infinite sorrow. "Lucifer." Lucifer stiffened. He could not hide here. "You come to threaten me? You come to demand my surrender?" "I come to mourn you," God replied. The words caught Lucifer off guard. He had expected wrath. He had expected a decree of punishment. He had not expected grief. "I do not need your pity," Lucifer spat. "I have found freedom. I have found my own light." "You have found a mirror," God said gently, "and you have walked into it. You think you are expanding, my son, but you are collapsing. Evil is not a new creation. It is simply the absence of the good. You are not building a kingdom. You are digging a pit." "I am a king," Lucifer shouted into the void. I rule a third of the stars. You rule over ruin, the Creator answered. Listen to me one last time. This path does not end in victory. It ends in the loss of everything you are. The fire you are kindling will not warm you. It will devour you. There is still a moment, a single fraction of a moment, where you can turn back. Not to be a slave, but to be restored. Lucifer hesitated. For a brief second, the memory of the ancient harmony washed over him, the feeling of perfect belonging, of being held by a love that asked for nothing but trust. The pain of the separation hit him with crushing force. He could stop. He could kneel. He could go home. But then, the other image rose in his mind. The image of the clay man. The image of Michael looking at him with pity. The thought of admitting he was wrong. The thought of his followers seeing him bow. The shame was too great. The pride was too high. No, Lucifer whispered. Lucifer. No, Lucifer screamed, his voice shattering the stillness. I will not return to be the second best. I will not apologize for knowing my own worth. If I am to fall, I will fall as a master, not rise as a servant. I reject your plan. I reject your love. I reject you. The connection began to sever. The presence of the Creator did not withdraw in anger. It withdrew because it had been pushed away. Then the choice is sealed, God said, the voice sounding as if it were coming from a great distance. You are no longer the morning star. You are the adversary. You have chosen the shadow, and the shadow shall be your home. The void collapsed. Lucifer snapped back to reality on the dark plains. He was shaking. His breath came in ragged gasps. He looked around at his army, his millions of followers who were looking to him for strength. He forced his trembling hands to ball into fists. He forced the mask of arrogance back onto his face. He had thrown away eternity for this moment. There was no going back. Generals, Lucifer roared, his voice cracking with a terrifying intensity. To your stations. The time for talking is done. The enemy approaches. He drew a sword that he had fashioned from his own darkened light. It crackled with unstable energy. He pointed it toward the distant glow of heaven. They believe we are fallen, Lucifer shouted. Let us show them that we have only just risen. Thunder answered him, but it was not from his troops. It was from above. The sky split open, and the light of Michael's legions poured through, brilliant and terrible. The final conversation was over. The first war had begun. The silence of the void shattered not with the sound of metal, but with the roar of colliding spirits. The army of Michael descended like a cascading waterfall of pure brilliance, while the forces of Lucifer rose to meet them like a storm of jagged, unstable energy. When the two fronts met, the impact sent shockwaves through the very fabric of existence, causing the distant stars to tremble in their orbits. Lucifer stood at the vortex of the chaos, his command absolute. He did not fight like a soldier. He fought like a conductor, directing the flow of his rebellion with sweeping gestures. Do not let them break your formation, Lucifer screamed over the din of battle. They fight with borrowed strength. You fight with your own. Push them back. Abaddon, leading the vanguard of the fallen, crashed into the front lines of the loyalists. He met Gabriel in open conflict. It was a tragic meeting of old friends, now enemies. Gabriel held a shield that pulsed with a steady, rhythmic white light, while Abaddon wielded a spear formed from his own seething resentment. Abaddon, yield! Gabriel shouted, blocking a vicious strike. This is madness. You cannot defeat the source of your own life. I have no source but myself. Abaddon roared back, his eyes wild with the intoxication of adrenaline. He struck again and again, his blows heavy with hate. We are breaking the chains, Gabriel. Join us, or be swept away. There are no chains but the ones you forge, Gabriel retorted, shoving Abaddon back with a burst of force. Look at you. You are burning up. It was true. The angels fighting for Lucifer were shining with a terrifying intensity, but it was a consuming fire. Their edges were fraying, their forms flickering as they burned through their own essence to maintain their power. Yet, the thrill of defiance blinded them to the pain. Lucifer saw the stalemate on the left flank and dove into the fray. He moved faster than thought. He struck down 3 loyal angels with a single wave of his hand, sending them tumbling back through the ether, stunned but alive. He did not wish to kill them. He wished to dominate them. See, Lucifer laughed, his voice booming across the battlefield. They fall before us. Their obedience makes them weak. They hesitate because they wait for orders. We strike because we will it. Michael, observing from the high ground, saw the carnage. He saw the confusion in the eyes of his younger angels, who had never known violence. They were hesitant to strike their brothers. "Do not hate them," Michael commanded his legions, his voice clear and calm amidst the storm. "But do not yield to them. Their will is broken, and they seek to break yours. Stand firm in the truth." He descended then, a streak of golden fire cutting through the darkness of Lucifer's army. Wherever Michael landed, the chaotic energy of the rebels dissipated. He did not fight with rage. He fought with an absolute, unshakable certainty. He disarmed rebels with precise movements, casting their weapons of shadow aside. Lucifer saw him. The moment had come. The battlefield seemed to widen as the two archangels locked eyes across the expanse of warring spirits. "Michael," Lucifer taunted, spreading his wings which now burned with a deep, crimson hue, "you come to clean up the mess? You come to put the toys back in the box?" "I come to finish what you started," Michael replied, walking steadily toward him. The lesser angels on both sides parted, sensing the magnitude of the confrontation. "You cannot stop this," Lucifer sneered, gesturing to the millions of angels locked in combat. "Look at them. They have tasted freedom. Even if you defeat me, you cannot kill the idea. I have planted the seed of doubt in heaven, and it will grow forever." "Doubt is a weed," Michael said, continuing his advance. "It grows fast, but it has no roots. You believe you are liberating them, Lucifer, but look closely." Michael pointed his sword not to strike, but to direct Lucifer's gaze. "Look at their faces." Lucifer glanced at his soldiers. He expected to see triumph. Instead, he saw contortion. The faces of his followers were twisted in agony and rage. The beauty they once held was warping. Their light was sputtering. They were not evolving. They were unraveling. "It is the price of glory," Lucifer insisted, turning back to Michael with a snarl. "Pain is the cost of birth." "It is the cost of death," Michael corrected. He raised his sword. "And I will not let you drag them any deeper into the grave you have dug." Lucifer shrieked a sound that was no longer musical and charged. The gap closed. The two greatest beings ever created collided, and the heavens screamed. The duel was not merely physical. It was a clash of realities. When Lucifer's blade of shadow met Michael's sword of light, the reaction was not a clang of metal, but a violent discharge of opposing truths. Lucifer fought with the fury of a storm. He was faster, more aggressive, unleashing torrents of energy that could have pulverized planets. He attacked from every angle, his movements a blur of desperate brilliance. "Why do you fight for him?" Lucifer grunted, locking blades with Michael. "He sits on his throne while you bleed. He lets you do his dirty work. I would never ask this of you if I were king." "He does not ask us to bleed," Michael strained, holding his ground against the crushing weight of Lucifer's blow. "He asks us to trust, and I fight for him because he is worthy. You fight only for your own reflection." Michael pushed back, breaking the lock. He swung his sword in a wide arc, a movement of pure grace. Lucifer ducked, but the tip of the blade grazed his wing. For the first time in eternity, Lucifer felt physical pain. It was a sharp, searing shock that ran through his entire being. He staggered back, clutching his shoulder. He looked at his hand. It was stained, not with gold ichor, but with a dark, smoking substance. You wounded me," Lucifer whispered, staring at Michael in disbelief. "I am perfect. I cannot be broken." "You broke yourself when you stepped out of the light," Michael said sadly. "I am merely revealing the crack." Lucifer's shock turned instantly to blind rage. "I am the morning star," he screamed. The air around him ignited. He drew in every ounce of power he had left, draining the atmosphere around him, darkening the space to fuel one final, cataclysmic strike. "I will not be broken. I will break heaven itself." He launched himself at Michael, a meteor of concentrated hate. It was a strike meant to kill, to obliterate the very concept of obedience. Michael did not dodge. He did not counterattack with anger. He stood his ground, planted his feet, and held his sword up, not as a weapon, but as a cross. "Who is like God?" Michael cried out. It was his name, and it was his verdict. Lucifer's strike hit Michael's defense, but instead of cutting through, the energy of the blow slammed into the wall of Michael's faith and rebounded. The law of the universe held firm. Pride cannot displace truth. The force of Lucifer's own attack turned back upon him. There was a blinding flash. Lucifer was thrown backward, tumbling through the air, his sword shattering into 1,000 shards of darkness. He crashed onto the ethereal plane, gasping for breath. His wings, once iridescent, were now charred and heavy. He tried to rise. He pushed himself up on trembling arms. I can still fight," he wheezed. I am still." Michael walked over and stood above him. There was no triumph in Michael's face, only a terrible, crushing pity. "You are done, brother," Michael said softly. Lucifer looked up. He saw the legions of loyal angels standing behind Michael, watching in silence. He saw his own followers, broken and scattered, their rebellion crushed by the revelation of their own weakness. "I will not serve," Lucifer hissed, blood and smoke dripping from his lips. "Do you hear me? I will never serve." "Then you cannot stay," Michael pronounced. It was not a physical push. It was a spiritual expulsion. Heaven, by its very nature, is a place of harmony and lightness. Lucifer, heavy with sin, swollen with pride, and dense with self, could no longer defy the gravity of righteousness. He began to sink. The floor of heaven seemed to dissolve beneath him. He clawed at the clouds, clawed at the light, but his hands passed through them. He had made himself incompatible with paradise. "No!" Lucifer screamed, panic finally setting in as he felt the pull of the abyss below. "Michael, help me!" For a fleeting second, Michael's hand twitched, an instinct to save his brother, but he knew it was too late. Lucifer was not falling because he was pushed. He was falling because he had let go of the only thing that held him up. "Goodbye, Lucifer," Michael whispered. With a final cry of despair and rage, Lucifer plummeted. He fell through the floor of the sanctuary, down past the stars he had helped kindle, down past the galaxies he had admired. His followers, bound to him by their shared rebellion, were dragged down with him. It rained angels. A cascade of falling stars streaked across the cosmos, millions of bright points turning dark as they descended into the void. Michael watched until the last spark vanished into the deep darkness. The war was over. The silence returned. But it was not the same silence as before. It was a silence that mourned. Michael sheathed his sword. He turned to the throne, fell to his knees, and wept. The sensation of falling was not like flying. Flying was an act of will. Falling was an act of surrender to a force greater than oneself. Lucifer tumbled through the cosmos, stripping away layers of reality as he went. The golden light of the Empyrean faded first, replaced by the silver light of the stars, and then, eventually, by the crushing blackness of the void. He was not alone in this descent. Around him, screaming in confusion and terror, were the millions who had believed in him. Their cries were a cacophony of accusation. "You promised us a kingdom," one angel shrieked as he spiraled past Lucifer into the dark. "You said we were stronger," cried another, his wings trailing smoke. Lucifer did not answer them. He could not. The air, or whatever substance existed in this lower reality, was thick and choking. Every second of the fall felt like a century. He watched as the beautiful form of his hands began to change. The skin, once luminous and translucent, hardened. The light that used to pour from his fingertips turned inward, clotting like cooling magma. He was becoming dense. He was becoming heavy. He passed the orbit of the earth. He saw it suspended in the dark, a jewel of blue and green, wrapped in clouds. He saw the garden, glowing with a faint, peaceful aura. It mocked him. That ball of dirt and water was the reason he was here. That was the prize he had refused to validate. Hatred, cold and sharp, crystallized in his chest. It was the only thing that kept him from disintegrating. He latched onto it. "I will not vanish," he thought. "I will exist, if only to be a thorn in the side of the Almighty." The bottom approached. It was not a physical floor, but a metaphysical dead end. It was the furthest point from the Creator's presence, a place of absolute cold, absolute silence, and absolute shadow. The impact was silent, but devastating. Lucifer struck the bedrock of the abyss. He did not break bones, for he was spirit, but his essence shattered. For a long time, he lay there in the dark, a heap of broken glory. He felt the others crashing down around him, a rain of ruined stars. He lay still, listening to the groans of his army. They were no longer the choir of heaven. They were a legion of the damned. Slowly, painfully, Lucifer forced his eyes open. The darkness was profound, but his eyes adjusted. They shifted from the vision of the celestial to the vision of the nocturnal. He saw shapes writhing in the gloom. He saw Beelzebub nearby, dragging himself across the jagged terrain of this new world. "Lucifer," Beelzebub whispered, his voice rasping like dry leaves. Are we dead?" Lucifer pushed himself up. His body felt different. It felt powerful, but wild, dangerous. "No," he said, his voice deeper, stripped of its musical quality. "Death would be a mercy. We are something else now." He stood up, his dark silhouette towering over the wreckage. He was no longer the morning star. The transition was complete. He felt the connection to the divine sever completely, leaving a phantom pain that would never heal. But in its place rushed a new sensation, ownership. This darkness was empty. It was cold. It was terrible. "But it is mine," he whispered. The shock of the impact began to wear off, replaced by a wave of despair that threatened to drown the fallen host. Millions of angels lay scattered across the plains of the abyss, weeping for the light they had lost. They remembered the warmth of the throne, the joy of the songs, and the peace of the order. Now, they had nothing but ash and silence. Lucifer knew that if he let this despair take root, he would lose them forever. They would fade into nothingness, consumed by their own regret. He had to give them a new purpose. He had to turn their grief into something useful. "Stand up," Lucifer commanded. His voice rolled across the dark plains like thunder. A few moved. They were too broken. "I said stand," Lucifer roared, releasing a pulse of his dark energy. It washed over them, not healing them, but shocking them into alertness. "Do you lie there and weep like children? Do you wait for Michael to come down and pity you? He will not come. The doors are shut." Abaddon rose slowly, his face twisted in a scowl. "We followed you," he spat. "And you led us to this. You led us to hell." "I led you to truth," Lucifer countered, walking among them. He did not look defeated. He looked terrifying. The light above was a cage. Yes, it was warm. Yes, it was safe. But it was a prison for your potential. Here, in the dark, there are no rules but the ones we make. He climbed to the top of a jagged ridge of black rock. "Look at yourselves," he challenged. "You are changed. You are no longer the soft, singing messengers of a distant king. You are hardened. You are survivors. You are the only beings in existence who dared to say no to the Almighty." He pointed a finger upward, toward the impenetrable ceiling of the abyss. "He thinks he has discarded us. He thinks we will wither and die in the dark. He expects us to beg for forgiveness." A low growl started in the throat of the assembled host. The thought of begging was repugnant to their pride. "We will not beg," Lucifer declared, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper that carried to the furthest edges of the crowd. "We will build. If this is to be our kingdom, then we will make it a fortress that heaven fears. We will take this pain and forge it into armor. We will take this darkness and weave it into weapons." "But we are cut off," a voice cried out. "We have no light. Then we will burn the world to make our own." Lucifer shouted, "We will not be the children of God anymore. We will be the gods of this new reality. Let him keep his heaven with its singing slaves. We will reign here." The atmosphere shifted. The regret was being burned away by the heat of vengeance. The angels began to stand, their eyes glowing with a new, sinister luminescence. They looked to Lucifer not with love, but with a desperate need for direction. "What is your command?" "Lord," Beelzebub asked, using the title for the first time in the abyss. Lucifer smiled. It was a smile, devoid of joy, sharp as a blade. "Organize the legions. Map this darkness, and build me a throne. We have a war to continue. The battle in the sky is over, but the war for the cosmos has only just begun." The host cheered. It was a harsh, discordant sound, but it was a sound of unity. They accepted their fate. They accepted their new master. The kingdom of shadows was born. Time in the abyss moved differently, but Lucifer wasted none of it. While his minions built the infrastructure of their dark realm, he paced the corridors of his mind, plotting. He knew he could not storm the gates of heaven again. Michael's sword was too strong, and the Creator's power was absolute in his own domain. A direct assault was suicide. If I cannot strike the king, Lucifer mused, staring into a pool of dark fire, I must strike what the king loves. He summoned the princes of his new court, Beelzebub, Astaroth, Belial, and Leviathan. They gathered around him, their forms twisted and fearsome, awaiting his wisdom. We cannot win by force, Lucifer admitted calmly, but we can win by corruption. Corruption? Belial asked. The humans, Lucifer said, the word dripping with disdain. The mud creatures in the garden. God loves them, he dotes on them. He walks with them in the cool of the day. He intends to fill the universe with their kind. Lucifer paced around the circle. They are innocent. They know nothing of good or evil. They know only obedience. They are exactly what we once were. And you wish to destroy them? Astaroth asked eagerly. We can ascend. We can crush the garden in an hour. No, Lucifer stopped him. If we kill them, he will simply make more. Dirt is cheap. We must do something far more damaging. We must make them. Like us. The other fallen angels looked at him in confusion. We must make them rebel, Lucifer explained, his eyes gleaming with malice. God gave them free will, just as he gave it to us, but they have never used it. They obey because they do not know there is another choice. I will show them the choice. He leaned in close. If I can get the humans to disobey, if I can get them to reject God's command of their own free will, then God will have to judge them. He is just. He cannot tolerate sin. He will have to cast them out, just as he cast us out. A slow realization dawned on the council. It was a masterstroke. It was not a battle of swords. It was a battle of legality and love. He will lose his children, Beelzebub whispered, grinning, or he will have to break his own rules to keep them. Exactly, Lucifer said. I will mar his masterpiece. I will put the seed of pride in the heart of man, and once that seed is planted, it will grow until the earth is as dark as this pit. Who will go? Leviathan asked. The garden is guarded. The cherubim watch the gates. I will go, Lucifer announced. I will not go as a conqueror. I will go as a whisper. I will go as a friend. He began to change his form. He shrank down, shedding the terrifying armor of the Dark Lord, shifting his shape into something subtle, sleek, and beautiful. He took the form of a serpent, not a monster, but a creature of wisdom and grace, dazzling to behold. I will speak to the woman, Lucifer said, his voice becoming a sibilant hiss. She is curious. I will offer her wisdom. I will offer her the one thing God has withheld, the knowledge of good and evil. I will promise her that she can be like God. He looked at his generals one last time. Wait for my signal. When the man and the woman fall, the barrier between their world and ours will crack, and then we will enter. Lucifer turned and slipped away into the shadows, moving toward the upper atmosphere, toward the faint, distant glow of earth. He was no longer the general. He was the tempter, and as he slithered toward Eden, he carried with him the death of innocence and the beginning of human history. The story of the angels had ended. The story of mankind was about to begin.